Good afternoon. I'm Pat McCoy. I'm the Director of Finance at the Metropolitan Transportation Authority in New York. Today, I had the honor and privilege of being elected President of the Government Finance Officers Association here by thousands of my state and local government peers. The GFOA is an organization made up of over 19,000 members of state and local government finance officers across the United States and the provinces of Canada. Infrastructure Week was last week in Washington. Leaders there continue to look for ways to improve our nation's aging infrastructure. We are here today to let Washington know that Infrastructure Week is not just for 1 week, it's every day, and it's what we do. It's our wheelhouse. It's what we do here at the GFOA. Our members make decisions every day to make infrastructure possible in their jurisdictions. GFOA members also help to provide delivering the essential public services that move our economy. We are here today to send word back to Washington. We remain committed to preserving the tool that brings us infrastructure across the United States, the tax-exempt municipal bond. GFOA members will be using the hashtag #BuiltByBonds to remind our leaders in Washington about the projects that are built by bonds, be they transportation, education, water and sewer, public safety, just to name a few. State and local governments shoulder about 3/4 of the financing costs for these projects, and we realize that the municipal bond, which tax exemption is provided by the federal government, is the best, most efficient way to make infrastructure happen. We would encourage our leaders in Washington to do no harm to the most vital tool for infrastructure across the United States. And with that, I'd like to turn this over to our immediate past president, Mark Gonzales, Finance Director of Clackamas County, Oregon. Mark.
Thank you, Pat. Thank you, Pat. I'm here to echo Pat's remarks on infrastructure from the other end of the country. Clackamas County is absolutely dependent on the availability of tax-exempt municipal bonds to build the projects that keep our economy moving and our communities livable. We would like to remind our leaders in Washington of the quality of state and local government finance officers and the knowledge they apply to remain good public stewards of the funds entrusted to us by taxpayers. This week here in Denver, 4,400 finance officers have joined together to discuss and learn more about the financing tools in the toolkit that includes tax-exempt municipal bonds. State and local government finance officials remain committed and up to date on financing mechanisms that are innovative and effective. Government finance officers are a valuable resource to policymakers in our communities. We would encourage our leaders in Washington to really understand what the local government finance officer is doing to provide infrastructure today. But also, as outgoing president, I'd like to highlight the fact that all this week, GFOA has been presenting high-level information on topics like transparency for our taxpayers, financial resilience, and sustainability of our entities. Speaking of our conference and the terrific city that has welcomed over 7,500 attendees, I'd like to turn it over to Brendan Hanlon, CFO of the City County of Denver.
Good afternoon, and thank you for having me. I am Brendan Hanlon, the City and County of Denver's Chief Financial Officer. First and foremost, welcome to Denver. I hope you've had an enjoyable time. In Denver, as with so many cities, our infrastructure is deeply linked to our quality of life. It is part of what has made us the #1 place to live in 2016 and the #2 place to live this year, according to U.S. News and World Report. From 5,000 acres of parks, trails, golf courses, and playgrounds to a world-class museums and libraries, we're incredibly proud of our city and the tremendous assets and amenities we offer residents and visitors. From the perspective of the city's Chief Financial Officer, tax-exempt bonds are a vital tool to Denver's toolkit of financing options. In our last general obligation bond in 2007, called the Better Denver Bond Program, we issued $550 million in debt to fund 380 projects across the city. That bond delivered both significant deferred maintenance projects as well as new ones, such as new fire stations, an animal shelter, and the Gonzales Library, to name a few. It also allowed us to create and preserve thousands of jobs just as the recession hit. Because those bonds were tax exempt, the city saw savings of approximately $191 million. That's the equivalent of 6 additional facilities of $30 million each that were able to be programmed in the Better Denver Bond Program. This year, Denver voters will be asked to approve a new general obligation bond to restore, replace, and expand infrastructure and capital assets across the city. These bonds will help us meet demands, better maintain infrastructure that we already have, and keep up with the growth that this city is experiencing, and create new jobs and opportunities for our residents. They are an investment in our community and in our future of our capital assets. And because they will be tax exempt, we will be able to deliver to taxpayers an efficient program that ensures the best possible value. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Debbie Cherney. I'm the Deputy General Manager at the Eastern Municipal Water District in Southern California. We actually serve about 800,000 customers of about the western third of Riverside County, California. We're a young district. We're only about 66 years young. And while we have several $1 billion worth of infrastructure that we need to maintain, this is water, recycled water, wastewater infrastructure, we're only at about 38% built out, only 38% developed. So we have a long way to go. We have a lot of infrastructure yet to be built to serve our community today and beyond. And I will tell you that tax-exempt bonds are the single best tool in our toolbox to finance that infrastructure on the most cost-effective basis for our ratepayers. So now I'd like to turn it over to David LaFrance from the American Waterworks Association.
We stand here today with the leaders of GFOA and together with a growing alliance in Washington, D.C. in support of preserving tax-exempt treatment of municipal bonds. I'm David LaFrance, the CEO of the American Waterworks Association, headquartered here in Denver, Colorado, with an office in Washington, D.C. Our 50,000 members represent the interest of the nation's water utilities and the infrastructure that is used to serve people every day who need to use water. Again, I'd like to echo the thoughts of the leaders of GFOA about the incredible importance of tax-exempt bonds in providing a method for financing the public services that we all rely on. Our nation has over 800,000 miles of buried water pipes, and our analysis indicates that over the next 25 years, $1 trillion of reinvestment in those pipes is necessary. And that does not include the investment that is needed for these over 700,000 miles of wastewater pipes. I'd also like to remind our leaders in Washington, D.C. that infrastructure is not just the structures that you can easily see. 60 to 80% of a water utility's infrastructure is invisible because it is below the ground. And it is critical to our local communities who, like the American Waterworks Association, are dedicated to the world's most important resource, which is water. And we do all of this through the use of tax-exempt municipal bonds. And now I would like to turn the podium over to Chris Morrill, the Executive Director of the Government Finance Officers Association.
Well, thank you all for being here today to discuss this really critical issue to our state and local governments throughout the United States. The Government Finance Officers of the United States and Canada has been committed for over a century to tax-exempt municipal bonds. We recognize how critical they are to communities throughout the United States. And we want to make sure that people understand the importance that they play. I want to thank those in Congress who will be looking at possible tax reform, who recognize that tax-exempt municipal debt isn't something that we should fool around with. It is too critical to our communities. And I think we can all agree that we want financially strong, resilient communities. And tax-exempt municipal debt is a critical way to make that happen. We're telling our story with hashtag Built by Bonds, and I want members of Congress who may question whether they are necessary or not to reach out to Government Finance Officers Association, to our President Pat McCoy, who has years of experience in this, the entire board and our membership, to hear how important they are to support our communities. Let's get out there and make sure that we tell our story throughout the United States, how critical these are to everyone out there, that we have good infrastructure, that we have the water, the libraries, the roads that we need. This is the most critical tool. So thank you all for being here today. Thank you for hearing this story. We look forward to hearing your stories as we tell it out there. And we look forward to working with our leaders in Washington to make sure that we keep tax-exempt municipal bonds available for centuries to come. Thank you.